Awesome. Welcome, everybody. My name is Layla Salam. I'm a student at UCLA, and I'm a statewide board member with CalPIRG students. I'm joined today by leaders in the legislature, county government, waste management, and environmental movement, including Atrium 916, CalPIRG, Californians Against Waste, Clean Water Action, Environment California, Gaia, Monterey Bay Aquarium, the National Stewardship Action Council, Ocean Conservancy, Oceana, Plastic Pollution Coalition, Physicians for Social Responsibility Los Angeles, the Surfrider Foundation, the Ecology Center, and Valley Improvement Projects and Waste Not Plastics. We've all come together here because we all care deeply about the scourge of plastic pollution and waste from excessive packaging in our state. From production to disposal, plastic waste threatens the environment and our health. Globally, we dump 2 garbage trucks worth of plastic into the ocean every minute. And as this plastic breaks down, it doesn't disappear. It breaks into smaller pieces called microplastics, which are now found basically everywhere, from the top of Mount Everest to the bottom of the Mariana Trench, and even in our own bodies. That's why this group came together and worked to pass California's landmark anti-plastic pollution law, the Plastic Pollution Prevention and Packaging Producer Responsibility Act, or Senate Bill 54, which requires all single-use packaging to be recyclable or compostable and mandates major reductions in plastic production, as well as holds producers responsible for the full life cycle of the packaging they produce. I'm here to speak on behalf of the tens of thousands of California students who supported passing SB 54, which the governor signed in 2022. And I'm here to call on Governor Newsom, telling him that young people care about this issue. We need him to fully implement SB 54. That means following the intent of the law, which is to reduce plastic waste without broad exemptions or harmful recycling technologies that are basically just burning plastic, which is really harmful for our health. To demonstrate the sheer amount of foodware and packaging that enters our communities every single day, my fellow students and I have collected all of this, just packaging from our food. A few of us in 1 week have collected everything you see here, and it's just a fraction of the huge volume of waste that's ending up in our landfills and getting into our environment. There are some estimates that if we don't do anything about this problem, by 2050, there could be more plastic in the ocean than fish. I would only be 46 then, and I don't want a future where myself and my kids are constantly exposed to microplastics, and I can't go on a hike or go to the beach without seeing plastic trash everywhere. This is already a problem, and it's hard to even imagine what this would look like if we don't do something about it. And I don't really want to find out. I don't know about you guys, but to do that, we can't get away with burning plastic. That's not a solution. We need to invest in real recycling. We need major reductions in the plastic we produce, and we need to hold producers responsible for cleaning up this mess that they created in the first place. I have petitions from over 6,000 people who just in the last couple of weeks have signed on in support of fully implementing SB 54. If fully implemented, this law would reduce plastic pollution, it would protect public health, improve reuse and recycling, and lower costs for all Californians. Our future depends on California's leadership. So thank you so much. Next, I want to bring up a true champ for the environment and my representative at UCLA, Senator Ben Allen. He really was the leader behind SB 54 and spearheaded this movement. We're so grateful for his work with the implementation of this law and now defending it as well. I'm proud to call him my senator. Please welcome Senator Allen. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Layla. I really appreciate that. And big round of applause to Layla and all the great students from CalPIRG. CalPIRG has been with us every step of the way throughout this entire process, including on earlier bills, and the energy that the students bring to this effort, knocking on doors, getting volunteers, getting people engaged in this important effort has just been phenomenal. And I just want to say how much I appreciate you and the longstanding relationship we've had. All the other wonderful organizations. I see Oceana here, Monterey Bay Aquarium's here. I know so many other groups are here as well. So I want to thank you for all the work that you've done over the years to get all this done. So, yes, I'm Ben Allen. I represent Hollywood and West Side, coastal South Bay, Santa Monica Mountains, areas of Los Angeles County, and proud lead author of SB 54, though, as was mentioned, it was truly a group effort. So many of us were involved with this. It took us about 5 years to get it passed and signed into law, several very close attempts. We almost got across the finish line a couple of times and didn't quite get there. But we finally got it done. And we got it done because of a combination of efforts, including a ballot measure, which we qualified for the ballot that polled very well, that we knew, would take a lot of money to fight if industry was not able or willing to come to the table with us to strike a deal. So we got the deal done. We got it through the legislature. We got the governor's signature. Then, of course, the administration started its process. Hearings, public comment, continued stakeholder engagement, so much engagement. They came out with a set of regulations from the administration. It was then pulled back. Now we're back reopening that process again. And it's all about re-envisioning how we handle plastic waste in California and promote greater accountability for plastic production. When Layla was talking about, wanting to be able to walk on the beach without plastic, I was actually just up in Washington State, beautiful San Juan Islands with my family just a week or two ago. During the summer, and it was just sitting there on the beach and looking through the rocks with my little son and noticing there wasn't any plastic, and it was so pristine and beautiful. And I thought how sad it is that I've just come to expect there to be a ton of plastic on the beach, even when we do all the work that we do to clean up the beach month after month. So it was a vision for me of what we need to get back to, and how much unnecessary waste we continue to produce. So we know that the effort in California is a nation-leading effort with truly global implications. When we first passed the bill, there was the World Oceans Conference in Portugal erupted in cheers when people started to get notifications on their phones about our having passed and had the bill signed into law. But it's why it's so important that we get this right. It's why we really need to make sure that the promise of the bill is carried out through the regulatory process happening in the administration right now. We need to show that California can in fact lead the way forward. And I just remind everybody involved that this was a deal struck with industry. There are a number of big businesses that were actually comfortable with the earlier regulations that came out from CalRecycle, and we have to get this process moving in a way that meets the promise of the law. So we know that the regulatory process before us this year has been anything but getting this right or leading the way. But it's not too late for us to correct that, and that's why we're all here today, taking up a strong stand, asking for the governor to not only uphold the integrity of SB 54, but the explicit letter of the law. There's simply too much at stake for us not to. The simple fact is that each of us are paying the price right now for the status quo. Plastics and packaging waste are clogging up our waste handling infrastructure, leading to ever-increasing costs for ratepayers, and are rapidly suffocating our environment and water ecosystems. That, by the way, is why our local governments were with us every step of the way from the very beginning, because they saw the fact that they were having to raise rates on regular working people to handle the amount of crap that was continuing to be produced, that they were then left holding the proverbial bag to manage, when the producers of all this stuff have had no role to play, no accountability, no cost share of based on all of the items that they continue to push out into the environment. We, of course, know that there's a massive environmental impact as well, both on our broader land environment and certainly our water ecosystems. And in the end of the day, this is about making sure that we rebalance the responsibility here. The producers have the tools at their disposal to reimagine their products. They know their markets, they know their customers best, and yet they have no accountability right now with regards to the end use of their products. And of course, we also know that for many of them, there's been a lot of greenwashing over the years that leads to a false assumption that so many of these items are being recycled. I picked up an item. I mean, only a small fraction of the trash we see in front of us right now is actually recycled under real world conditions today. So SB 54, if implemented correctly and as written, will put an end to this lack of accountability. It will bring these producers to the table to be a part of the solution that we desperately need. It's a solution that will reduce overall plastic consumption and packaging waste. It's a solution that will improve our recycling and compost systems. It's a solution that will protect our environment. And it's a solution that will save Californians money. If you want to talk about affordability, implementing SB 54 fully has to be a part of that conversation. The most recent report on this issue found a potential net savings of $32 billion if we get this right. Savings as a result from the massive public health benefits, as well as reduced litter, cleanup, and waste handling burdens. It's going to mean that our local governments are going to not have to continue to turn to ratepayers to pay more and more and more to put Band-Aids over this waste problem. And that's just a cost that continues to be borne by regular folks. So we can't afford regulations that perpetuate the status quo, that fly in the face of the law as written. Ratepayers, consumers, local governments, communities up and down this state, and our environment are all counting on SB 54 to be fully implemented to relieve the massive burdens of the overwhelming plastic pollution that continues to be pushed out onto our environment. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the energy you bring to this fight. I want to especially thank all of my legislative allies and friends in this effort, including many who were not here in the early days of SB 54, but who I know are already taking up the baton to ensure that this will be properly implemented. We're going to do more laws. We're going to continue to push this agenda forward. And in that spirit, I want to introduce the wonderful new chair of the Environmental Quality Committee and a great champion on the Plastics Waste Challenge, Senator Catherine Blakespear.
Sorry, I'm not Catherine Blakespear.
So we have Catherine Blakespear's state assembly member, who is another great champion in this topic as well, Tasha Barner.
Thank you. I know it's easy to confuse us because we actually both live in the same city and have kids about the same age and both avid cyclists and both avid environmentalists. But I'm Tasha Burner. Sorry, I got divorced. I know, I do too. I'm Tasha Burner, and I represent Assembly District 77 along the San Diego coast. And I was one of the original co-authors of SB 54 when it came through back in the day. And it was groundbreaking, and it proved that California always leads. And it was especially when it comes to protecting California's public health and our environment. And for those who have been with us since the beginning, it's been a longer and bumpier road than it needed to be for everything everybody here already knows. And Ben already said about what it means to us in California and what it means to the world when we lead. It's disappointing to see that the implementation is slower and weaker than Californians deserve, and that we in the legislature, when we passed it, intended. The increasing number of products exclusions from the CalRecycle July draft regulations are concerning and threaten to raise costs and reduce the efficacy that my colleagues and I intended. It's essential that California implements SB 54 as timely and as intended when my colleagues voted on it in 2021. So with that, let's get to work. We have work to do. Let's do it. Let's do it right. Let's keep California leading, and let's protect this planet for our kids. And with that, I'd love to introduce my good friend. She recruited me into politics. So when I'm happy, I love her. And when I am not happy, I blame her. My dear friend, Catherine Blakespear.
Well, hello and good morning, everybody. My name is Catherine Blakespear, and it's my great honor to serve as a state senator representing the 38th district. I want to really recognize the CalPIRG students and all of the advocates and champions and allies. So let's give a big round of applause and show us your signs. Show us your signs. This coalition was really behind last year. I authored the bill that banned plastic bags at grocery store checkouts starting in 2026. And this group is what got it over the finish line. And it's press conferences like this that show the reality of what it means to have this kind of plastic waste. And we had a big plastic bag monster who came out at those press conferences, which was great to see what it really looks like when you have so much plastic bag waste. So I've been fighting for years to reduce plastic pollution and improve sustainable living practices and protect our environment. And I'm honored to serve as the chair of the Senate Environmental Quality Committee. I have big shoes to fill because my colleague, Senator Ben Allen, standing here, is the author of SB 54. And so I'm taking the baton from him and carrying forward the legacy of really effective action together with the Assembly colleagues that are here today as well. This groundbreaking bill, SB 54, is first of its kind, first in the nation legislation. And it's time that we put it to work. So it was passed, and now we've been in this extensive process of taking feedback and coming up with draft regulations. And we need to make sure that the draft regulations are true, the actual regulations are true to the spirit and also the actual negotiation that was reached with SB 54. It's really important to remember how much plastic waste we have. It is truly atrocious. You see it in front of you here, but it's 12,000 tons of plastic waste into landfills every single day. That's 219 Olympic-sized swimming pools. 5.4 million tons of plastic waste. It is just truly atrocious when you realize the amount and the scale of plastic that we are consuming in our environment and absorbing in every single way. It's in our brains, it's in our clothing, it's in animals, it's everywhere. And we can do something about this. This is not inevitable. So we need to execute. And unfortunately, CalRecycle's current draft regulations come up short. They broadly exclude some products that should be covered, and they allow recycling technologies that produce significant amounts of hazardous waste that shouldn't be allowed. And so that's why we're all here today. It's to ensure that the law is followed and executed as intended. So I want to thank everybody here for understanding the importance of and advocating loudly for full implementation of SB 54 and reducing unneeded plastic waste and packaging. And it's now my great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Assemblymember Gregg Hart.
It's a pleasure to be here, and I have stood in front of many podiums in my political career, but nothing like this that tells the story so well. Thank you to the CalPIRG folks that put this together. It really dramatically illustrates what we're here to talk about, and I'm honored to stand here with my colleagues, the community leaders and advocates who are united to making sure that SB 54 is fully implemented and faithfully enforced. This coalition represents years of dedication and hard work that produced the strongest plastic reduction law in the nation. It was a landmark achievement, and it must be carried out with the same clarity and courage that brought it into law. For too long, local governments and families have shouldered the cost of a broken waste system. Trash collection fees have skyrocketed. Recycling costs have spiraled. Communities have been forced to stretch already thin budgets to clean up pollution and deal with public health impacts. SB 54 was simply designed to change that. From the very beginning, affordability and fairness were at the core. The law makes it clear producers of plastic waste, not taxpayers, not local governments, must take responsibility. That protects residents from higher utility bills and protects communities from having to cut other essential services to pay for the mounting costs of waste. Today's regulations threaten to unravel that progress, weakening standards, creating loopholes, and shifting costs back onto communities would betray both the letter and the spirit of the law. That's not just bad environmental policy, it's bad economics. It's unfair to taxpayers, and it's short-sighted for future generations who will have to pay the price if we don't act with integrity now. SB 54 already strikes the right balance between economic reality and environmental responsibility. What's needed now is follow through. So our message to CalRecycle is simple. Implement SB 54 as it was written, as it was signed, and as the public expects. Make sure producers of plastic waste pay their fair share. Relieve taxpayers of an unfair burden, and deliver the billions in environmental, economic, and health benefits that this law promises. It's not just good policy, it's common sense. With this broad coalition standing here today, we will not stop until SB 54 fulfills its promise for our communities, our environment, and our future. What I'd like to do next is turn this over to the Assembly Natural Resources Chair, Assemblymember Isaac Bryan.
First, I want to thank my colleague Gregg Hart and the author of SB 54, Senator Ben Allen, and all of you in the community who have stood tall in this fight through these last few years. SB 54 was a groundbreaking law that had the potential to be the first law in the nation to truly reduce plastic pollution. However, that potential can only be realized if the law is implemented effectively and fully. The legislator, along with so many of you in community, crafted SB 54 to ensure that the plastic waste we generate is recycled back into products and to exclude polluting technologies that turn plastics into fuels or that generate significant amounts of hazardous waste. We know that the environmental impacts of single-use plastics hit vulnerable communities the hardest every single time. From the generation of the oil used to make them to the end of life. The last thing the architects of this legislation envisioned was to pave the way for new facilities that will further burden those same communities, those sacrifice zones, those frontline communities that have always bear the brunt of our environmental hazards. The vision of SB 54 was to encourage producers to use more recyclable materials and design products that use less plastic and are easier to recycle, not to facilitate the ongoing production of resins that can only be managed by building these new pollution technologies. CalRecycle's economic analysis of SB 54 shows that it could deliver over $30 billion in net benefits to California residents and businesses and reduce plastic waste by almost 2 billion pounds. But those benefits depend on regulations that reflect the letter, the spirit, and the intent of the law and a strong commitment to enforcement by the administration. That's why we are all here urging the governor and CalRecycle to build that strong foundation for this program and ensure that it lives up to its potential. Literally, lives and communities are depending on it. And we will do everything we can from the positions that we hold to make sure that SB 54 is fully implemented. And again, I just want to thank you all for coming out here today. And next, I want to introduce my colleague, the fearless Assemblymember Steve Bennett.
All right. Fearless.
Hey, good morning. My talented colleagues have given you lots of facts and statistics and really made the case. So I just want to focus on one thing, and that is we are drowning in plastic. Our country is drowning in plastic. The ocean is drowning in plastic. The globe is drowning in plastic. And why does that happen? It happens because of the tragedy of the commons, the old, long-established economic principle that if nobody regulates it, if nobody gets on top of it, everybody will dump their cost onto the public. And that's what's happening with the plastic production today in the United States, in California, and unfortunately in the world. SB 54 was a good faith attempt to try to move us away from the tragedy of the commons and try to say you can no longer use the public's resources, the public's places, as the place for us to dump things that people profit from. And it's been a good faith, well-intentioned bill, and it's important for us to emphasize that it is easy to do nothing in a democracy. It's easy to block good legislation in a democracy. It is hard to be proactive. It is hard to get things done. SB 54 was hard. It was a lot of hard work. And now that we've been able to get this far, we can't lose it in the regulatory process. Let's make sure we commit that we're going to change the equation. The tragedy of the commons is so well known that we in California are not going to tolerate that when it comes to plastic pollution here in California. So I want to compliment the authors for coming up with a well-crafted bill that tried to make this transition away from the tragedy of the commons an appropriate transition. We need to do better and go forward. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Next, we have Martin Bork from the Ecology Center.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Martin Bork. I'm speaking on behalf of the Ecology Center and the Alliance of Mission-Based Recyclers. We represent the nation's first and longest-running recycling programs. We do it for people and the planet, not for profit. We keep recycling real, and I'm here to speak to the inconvenient truths about plastic recycling. As recyclers, we bear the brunt of poor but profitable packaging decisions made by brands and retailers. SB 54 was supposed to fix that. We fought for strong state oversight to ensure the law did what the people intended, and that's not what's happening. We spent 3 years in negotiations and a public rulemaking process in good faith. But the governor disregarded those rules that we came out with under industry pressure. And the new proposals would undermine 50 years of recycling law. The proposed categorical exclusions are a massive loophole that lets most plastic packagers keep polluting as usual. Collecting film and flexible packaging in curbside recycling pollutions will pollute our best recycling commodity, paper and cardboard, for decades to come. And counting on plastics to fuel schemes as recycling is truly an abomination. As recyclers, we have 3 clear needs. Eliminate categorical exclusions. Recyclers don't get to categorically exclude packaging from our carts. If we have to handle it, it should be covered. Exemptions should only be based on essential use, on a short-term basis, and on a case-by-case basis. Number 2, keep flexible and film packaging out of curbside collection. Bags, pouches, wrappers are prohibitively expensive to collect and sort. They contaminate paper and cardboard, which is California's largest export by volume. And once California's paper reaches developing nations, the plastic that's embodied in that is burned in paper mills, cement kilns, backyard industries, or is dumped. Right now, industry is spending millions of dollars to convince regulators that it can be recycled in the cart. It can't. It's better to landfill it here than to divert harm abroad. Under SB 54, brands should pay for flex and film design, reuse, substitution, deposit return systems, or alternative collection methods. Stop wasting time and money on this disastrous marketing boondoggle. Number 3, don't call burning plastic recycling. Industry calls it advanced recycling, but there's nothing advanced about it. It's outdated 20th century petrochemical technology that relies on public subsidies, regulatory evasion, and produces the lowest grade fuels out of the highest grade recyclable plastics. There's nothing advanced about burning plastic, and it's certainly not recycling. Let's be clear. We can't recycle our way out of the plastic packaging crisis. Californians know this, the packaging industry knows this, and the petrochemical industry knows this. Californians demanded transformative action when SB 54 was passed. They did not call for categorical exemptions and false solutions. SB 54 started because California's recyclers were drowning in plastic that we could not recycle. Our customers should not foot the bill for corporate failure to act. The solution Recology posed at the time was a ballot measure to put an end to it. If the governor and his regulators can't hold the line on industry influence, then we may need to take this back to the ballot. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Tara Brock, and I work with Oceana, an environmental nonprofit dedicated to protecting our world's oceans, because we truly are a blue planet, reliant on everything the oceans provide. Despite this importance, the oceans are choking on plastic. An estimated 33 billion pounds of plastic enter the marine environment each year. You heard earlier, that's equivalent to 2 garbage trucks dumping plastic into the ocean every minute. And the impact on our environment and our communities cannot be overstated. Across the state, hundreds of millions of dollars are spent each year to clean up plastic pollution that is inundating our environment, threatening our health, and entangling our wildlife. There is no place on Earth that is untouched by plastic. In response to this crisis, the legislature, environmental organizations, waste haulers, industry, and the governor came together to take decisive action 3 years ago and pass the strongest plastic reduction law in the world. Implementing SB 54 as intended is a direct answer to the ballooning problem of plastic pollution. The solution to the skyrocketing climate, health, environmental justice, and financial costs to Californians. But now, instead of being part of the solution, industry has persuaded the governor and his administration to walk back our collective ambition, letting huge sectors of plastic producers off the hook and allowing toxic and hazardous technologies to count as recycling. Today, we are delivering letters from dozens of nonprofits, dozens of California businesses, and thousands of Californians calling on the governor to step up and push back on the plastics industry's fight to illegally undermine this law. The world is watching what is happening in California. We cannot go backward, and we cannot allow packaging producers to simply carry on business as usual while Californians and our environment pay the price. You gotta go.
Thank you.
Oh,
thank you.
I'm gonna.
We have an incredible champion
great.
who was there with us on the floor when we were getting SB 54 passed. She's now an incredible member of Congress, Congress member Laura Friedman.
This is a wonderful welcome for me back to Sacramento for the day, to walk in and see people raising their voices in support of what was one of my absolute favorite bills when I was in the legislature, and one of the most important pieces of policy that California has done in many, many years, and that's to create a true circular economy to try to crack down on the scourge of single-use plastic. When Ben Allen, the author of this bill, came to me a few months ago and told me that they were considering drawing out the regulations, not doing this now, I immediately wrote a letter from my position in Congress to advocate for strong regulations for the inaction of this legislation. And so I'm happy to be here today to once again say, please, State of California, Governor Newsom, I know there's a lot going on, but dealing with our plastic pollution crisis is incredibly important for our future and our children. So thanks to all the advocates. Thanks to CalPIRG. Thanks for everybody for letting me be here. And of course, for Gregg Hart for picking up the mantle of environmental champion in the legislature.
Well, that's a tough act to follow, our wonderful Congresswoman. My name is Heidi Sanborn, and I am the founding executive director of the National Stewardship Action Council. And I've been advocating for extended producer responsibility before anybody knew what it was, back over 20 years ago. And SB 54 really is the culmination of all the lessons that we've learned on how to get producers to be responsible for the end of life of their products. It was a product of a democratic, multi-stakeholder negotiation that I was a part of. The legislature spoke, and now our job is simple, which is to honor the deal and implement the statute as it was written. No broad carve-outs and no false solutions. There are 4 key pillars to EPR working, and one is a level playing field for business to ensure a fair and competitive business environment. The current draft regulations violate that principle, allowing most every grocery packaging manufacturer to apply for their packaging to be deemed categorically excluded under Article 2, meaning they are not covered products under the law and would not pay to fund the recycling system nor the plastic pollution mitigation fund, which we fought so hard for. Clear rules that minimize exclusions and create fair and level playing field for business is what we need. The latest draft regulations created a business uncertainty that has caused companies to delay making their packaging design changes that would reduce the overall system costs, which is completely counter to what the governor said that he wanted. The business case for California is that clear and fair rules reduce risk and compliance costs, protect market integrity, and reward better packaging design. And that is how we can attract capital and scale solutions, driving innovation nationwide and even internationally. California's economic and environmental leadership has historically set the pace. Let's do that again, on time as negotiated. Honor the deal, implement SB 54 as written for fairness, affordability, and cleaner communities. Thank you very much. And I think the next speaker is Jennifer Fearing, who will take some questions. Thank you. Thomas, I'm so sorry. There you go.
Surprise, surprise, I am not Jennifer Fearing, but she's awesome. And she invited me here today. My name is Thomas Helm. I'm the co-founder of a grassroots environmental justice group in the Northern San Joaquin Valley called Valley Improvement Projects. And I'm the coordinator of the California Environmental Justice Coalition, which has almost 90 groups throughout the state of California. Both of these organizations were founded because partly the Integrated Waste Management Board back in the 80s commissioned a report now known as the Sorrell Report that encouraged industry and government to site polluting incinerators and landfills in communities that were, as it puts, low education, low English speaking, rural, in the ranching and farming industries, and even mentioned Catholic communities, which to me describes a Latino farm worker community, much like the ones in West Stanislaus County, where, big surprise, one of the 3 waste incinerators in California was built just a few years later. Luckily, it recently became the last incinerator in California and just shut down in December of last year. Thank you. Now, just when we thought that we could breathe freely, we now know of a new threat many know as chemical recycling or advanced recycling that looks to be incineration by another name and replace that technology with the same old story of you don't have to worry about all the waste you're creating because we're going to take care of it and the newest technology is going to take care of it. I have a letter that several organizations represented here signed onto, and I want to read a part of it. The recent drafts of the SB 54 regulations only exacerbate the issues caused by chemical recycling by authorizing the use of costly and hazardous technologies that falsely claim to safely recycle plastic waste while endangering public health and the climate. Facilities operating solvent-based and thermal processes are marketed as advanced recycling, but in practice, most of them are not recycling at all. At best, they are a new euphemism for an old and dirty practice, incineration, otherwise known as burning trash, and mostly produce dirty fuels that are burned, further polluting the air and harming the climate. The EPA has estimated conservatively that air pollution from making fuels of plastic waste could lead to cancer in 1 out of 4 people exposed to it over a lifetime. And we know that those incinerators and those landfills, 80% are in communities of color and environmental justice communities. And we know that it's going to be the same thing with chemical recycling industries if they are allowed to open up and operate in California. And who's going to bear the burden of the pollution? Once again, communities of color, low-income communities, environmental justice communities, the folks that get cancer, that don't have access to health care, that don't have stable employment, and that don't have political clout are once again going to be left behind. Let's not let that happen. We know that the current federal administration is undermining the International Treaty for Plastic Pollution. California needs to step up. If Governor Newsom wants to be the anti-Trump, step up and help us with this plastic pollution, the microplastics in our bodies that are affecting poor people and people of color the most. Thank you.
Now it's Jennifer. Do it.
Jennifer.
Jennifer Fearing.
Full role was to just say thank you to everyone who made this event a success. For those of you who are here covering it for our legislators and our allies, sending this strong message today to Governor Newsom. And I just wanted to ask if there are any questions. Any questions today? Yes, let's take a photo.
That's a good question. All right.
Everybody squeeze in. Yep. Hold your sign still.
I'm gonna block you out here.